Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that's been simmering in conversations online, in group chats, and maybe even in your own head. Modern dating and how it's impacting men. The title of this video is bold. Modern dating is destroying men. And I know some of you might already be raising an eyebrow. Is it really that bad? Are men really being destroyed? Stick with me, because we're going to unpack this from every angle. This isn't just about pointing fingers or venting frustrations. It's about understanding what's going on, why it's happening, and what it means for men navigating the dating world in 2025. Grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's talk about it. Let's start with a simple observation. Dating today feels different. If you're a guy who's been in the dating scene over the past few years, you've probably noticed it. The apps, the expectations, the ghosting, the endless swiping, it's a lot. And it's not just about the mechanics of dating, it's about how it makes you feel. There's this undercurrent of pressure, confusion, and sometimes straight-up exhaustion that a lot of men are experiencing. I've talked to friends, scrolled through forums, and seen the posts on X, and the sentiment is clear. Modern dating is taking a toll. But why? What's changed? And how did we get to a point where something that's supposed to be exciting, meeting someone new, building a connection, feels like it's chipping away at men's confidence, mental health, and even their sense of purpose? To understand this, we need to go back a bit. Dating at its core is a human ritual. It's how we find partners, build relationships, and for many, start families. But the way we date has always been shaped by the world around us, technology, culture, economics, you name it. 100 years ago, dating was a different beast. Your options were limited to the people in your town or social circle. Courtship was formal, often overseen by families, and the roles were clear. Men were expected to pursue, women were expected to respond. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, and things started loosening up. The rise of cars, movies, and urban life gave people more freedom to meet and date. But even then, the rules were still pretty defined. Men were the initiators, the providers, the ones who asked for the date and paid for the dinner. Now let's jump to today. The dating landscape in 2025 is unrecognizable compared to those earlier eras. Technology has flipped the script. Dating apps like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge have turned meeting someone into a digital marketplace. You're not just competing with the guys in your town anymore. You're competing with hundreds, maybe thousands of profiles in a 50-mile radius. Your worth is reduced to a few photos, a bio that's supposed to be witty but not too try-hard, and maybe a prompt that shows you're deep without being boring. And that's just the start. Once you match, you've got to navigate a minefield of texting etiquette, keep the conversation alive, and somehow stand out in a sea of notifications on her phone. It's like applying for a job where the interview process never ends. But it's not just the apps. The cultural rules have shifted too. Traditional gender roles? They're still around, but they're murky. Some women expect men to take charge, plan the date, and pay, while others are fiercely independent and might be offended if you offer to cover the bill. And then there's the pressure to be emotionally intelligent, vulnerable, and in touch with your feelings while still projecting confidence and masculinity. It's a tightrope, and a lot of guys feel like they're one misstep away from falling off. Add to that the economic reality, stagnant wages, skyrocketing living costs, and the fact that many young men are struggling to afford the provider role they're still judged by. And you've got a recipe for stress. Let's talk about the apps for a second because they're a huge part of this. Dating apps are designed to keep you engaged, not necessarily to help you find love. Think about it. Their business model depends on you staying on the platform, swiping, matching, and maybe even paying for premium features. The average guy on Tinder might swipe for hours to get a handful of matches, and even then, half of those matches fizzle out before a conversation starts. Studies have shown that men get far fewer matches than women. Some estimates say women get 10 to 20 times more. That's not because men are inherently less attractive. It's because the apps amplify certain dynamics. Women, understandably, can afford to be pickier because they're flooded with options. Men, on the other hand, are often left feeling like they're shouting into the void. I remember talking to a friend, let's call him Jake, about his experience on Bumble. Jake's a decent guy. He's got a steady job, he's in shape, he's funny when you get to know him. But on the apps, he felt invisible. He'd spend hours tweaking his profile, trying new photos, rewriting his bio, only to get a match every other week. And when he did match, the conversation would often die after a few messages. One time he matched with someone he was really excited about. They chatted for a bit, seemed to hit it off, and then she just stopped responding. No explanation, no warning, just gone. Jake laughed it off, but you could tell it stung. Multiply that by months, maybe years, and it starts to wear you down. You start questioning your worth. Am I not good enough? Am I doing something wrong? This is where the destroying part comes in. It's not just about rejection. Rejection has always been part of dating. It's about the scale and relentlessness of it. Modern dating, especially through apps, can feel like a machine designed to erode your self-esteem. Every swipe, every unmatched conversation, every ghosting feels like a tiny judgment on your value as a person. And for men who are still socialized to tie their worth to their ability to attract and provide, that hits hard. It's not just about not getting a date. It's about feeling like you're failing at something fundamental. But let's zoom out. It's not just the apps or the ghosting. There's a broader cultural shift at play. Over the past few decades, we've seen massive changes in how men and women relate to each other. Feminism, for all its benefits, and I'm not here to bash it, has reshaped expectations. Women are more empowered than ever, and that's a good thing. They're pursuing careers, prioritizing their goals, and demanding more from relationships. But this has created a gap. Many men haven't caught up. They're still operating under old scripts, be the provider, be the protector, while society is telling them those scripts are outdated. At the same time, they're not always given clear guidance on what the new scripts are. Be vulnerable, but not too vulnerable. Be ambitious, but not a workaholic. Be confident, but not arrogant. It's confusing. And then there's the economic piece. Dating isn't cheap. Dinner, drinks, activities, it adds up. In a world where many young men are struggling to afford rent or save for the future, the expectation to foot the bill can feel like a kick in the teeth. I saw a post on X the other day where a guy was venting about how he took a woman out for a nice dinner, dropped $100, and then she texted him the next day saying she didn't feel a spark. He wasn't mad at her. He got that you can't force chemistry, but he was frustrated at the system. He felt like he was being judged not just on his personality, but on his ability to perform financially, even when he was scraping by. This brings up another point, the pressure to perform. Modern dating often feels like a stage where men are expected to put on a show. You've got to be charming, witty, interesting, and ideally have a life that looks good on Instagram. But what if you're just a regular guy? What if you're working a 9-to-5 trying to figure out your own path and don't have some glamorous lifestyle to flaunt? A lot of men feel like they're being judged against an idealized version of masculinity, one that's tall, rich, charismatic, and always on. And when you don't measure up, it's easy to internalize that as failure. Let's talk about the mental health angle because this is huge. Rejection, pressure, and uncertainty take a toll. Studies have shown that men are experiencing higher rates of anxiety and depression than in previous decades. And while dating isn't the only factor, it's definitely part of the equation. When you're constantly putting yourself out there, only to be ignored or rejected, it chips away at your confidence. You start to feel like you're not enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not anything enough. And for men who are often taught to bottle up their emotions, that pain doesn't always have an outlet. You can't exactly call up your buddies and say, "Hey, I got ghosted again and I'm feeling worthless." Society still expects men to shrug it off and keep going. I want to pause here and acknowledge something. This isn't about saying men have it worse than women. Dating is tough for everyone. Women deal with their own challenges, creepy messages, safety concerns, unrealistic beauty standards, the pressure to balance independence and approachability. The point isn't to compare struggles. It's to shine a light on what men are going through, because it's not talked about enough. Men are expected to be stoic, to handle rejection with a smile, to keep swiping and trying no matter how much it hurts. But that expectation ignores the reality. Men are human. They feel the sting of rejection, the weight of failure, the loneliness of an empty inbox. So why does this matter? Why make a video about how modern dating is destroying men? Because it's not just about dating. It's about how these experiences shape men's lives. When you feel like you're failing in one area, like dating, it spills over. It affects your confidence at work, your relationships with friends, your sense of purpose. I've seen guys who used to be outgoing and optimistic become withdrawn and cynical after years of dating struggles. They start to believe they're not worth loving, and that belief can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. They stop trying, not just in dating but in other areas of life. That's what I mean by destroying. It's not about physical destruction, but about the slow erosion of hope, ambition, and self-worth. Let's talk about some of the specific ways this plays out. First, there's the paradox of choice. Dating apps give you endless options, which sounds great until you realize it works both ways. If the woman you're talking to has 50 other matches in her queue, why should she invest in you? And if you're constantly wondering if there's someone better out there, it's hard to commit to building a real connection. This creates a culture of disposability. People ghost, flake, or move on at the slightest inconvenience because they know there's always another profile to swipe on. For men, who are often the ones initiating, this can feel like running on a treadmill. You're putting in effort, but you're not getting anywhere. Then there's the gamification of dating. Apps turn attraction into a numbers game. You swipe, you match, you message, you repeat. It's like playing a slot machine hoping for a payout. But unlike a game, the stakes are emotional. Every time you lose, a match doesn't respond, a date doesn't go anywhere. It feels personal. And because the apps are designed to keep you hooked, you keep coming back, even when it's draining you. I know guys who've deleted Tinder in a fit of frustration, only to reinstall it a week later because they don't know where else to meet people. It's a cycle, and it's hard to break. Another issue is the mismatch in expectations. Men and women often approach dating with different goals, and that's amplified by the apps. A lot of women are looking for something serious, a partner who checks all the boxes: emotionally available, financially stable, attractive, ambitious. Men, on the other hand, might be open to something casual or just exploring. That's not to say men don't want relationships. They do. But the pressure to meet a high bar right out of the gate can feel overwhelming. If you're a guy who's still figuring out your career or your life, it's easy to feel like you're not ready to compete in that arena. Let's not ignore the role of social media either. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok aren't just for sharing memes. They're shaping how we see ourselves and others. Men are bombarded with images of perfect guys, ripped, successful, living glamorous lives. At the same time, they see women posting about their standards. If he's not 6 feet, making 6 figures, and emotionally intelligent, I'm not interested. Now, some of that is just internet hyperbole, but it seeps into the psyche. Guys start to feel like they're competing with a fantasy, not real people. And when you're scrolling through those posts, it's easy to think, I'll never measure up. I want to share another story. I have a friend, let's call him Mark, who's been single for a few years. Mark's a great guy, kind, smart, has a decent job as a teacher, but he's not the loud, flashy type. He's introverted, prefers quiet nights and over big parties. He tried the apps for a while but gave up after too many dead-end conversations. Last time we talked, he told me he's starting to wonder if there's something wrong with him. I see all these couples, he said, and I wonder why I can't figure it out. Am I just not what women want? Hearing that broke my heart a little, because Mark's the kind of guy who'd be an amazing partner. But the system, the apps, the culture makes him feel like he's not enough. This is where the conversation gets tricky, because it's tempting to point fingers. Some guys blame women, saying they're too picky or shallow. Others blame the apps or feminism or society at large. But blame doesn't solve anything. The reality is, we're all navigating a system that's changed faster than we can adapt. Women aren't the enemy. They're dealing with their own pressures and insecurities. The apps aren't evil, they're just tools designed to maximize engagement, not happiness. And society? It's a mess of contradictions, telling men to be one thing while rewarding something else entirely. So what's the solution? That's the million-dollar question, and I'll be honest, there's no easy fix. But I think it starts with awareness. Men need to recognize that the struggles they're facing in dating aren't just personal. They're systemic. The apps, the culture, the economy, they're all part of it. Knowing that can take some of the weight off. It's not just about you not being good enough. It's about a system that's stacked against genuine connection. So what's the solution? That's the million-dollar question, and I'll be honest, there's no easy fix. But I think it starts with awareness. Men need to recognize that the struggles they're facing in dating aren't just personal. They're systemic. The apps, the culture, the economy, they're all part of it. Knowing that can take some of the weight off. It's not just about you not being good enough. It's about a system that's stacked against genuine connection. Another step is redefining success. If your only measure of success in dating is getting a girlfriend or racking up matches, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Instead, focus on what you can control. Your confidence, your growth, your happiness outside of dating. Build a life you're proud of, Not because it'll impress someone else, but because it makes you feel whole. When you're grounded in yourself, the rejections sting less and you're less likely to tie your worth to someone else's approval. It's also worth rethinking how we approach dating. The apps are convenient, but they're not the only way. Meeting people in real life through hobbies, friends, events can feel more organic. It's slower, sure, but it allows you to connect as a person, not a profile. Plus, it takes some of the pressure off. You're not competing with 1,000 other guys in a digital lineup. You're just being yourself in a real moment. And let's talk about vulnerability. I know it's hard, especially for men who've been taught to tough it out. But opening up about these struggles can be powerful. Talk to your friends, not just about the funny dating stories, but about how it's really affecting you. You'd be surprised how many guys are feeling the same way but don't say it out loud. There's strength in admitting you're struggling. It's not weakness, it's honesty. Finally, I think we need to have more compassion for ourselves and for each other. Dating is hard for everyone, and the system isn't doing us any favors. Instead of getting bitter or giving up, try to approach it with curiosity and kindness. Be kind to the women you meet, even if it doesn't work out. Be kind to yourself, even when it feels like you're failing. And remember that you're not alone in this. There are millions of guys out there navigating the same challenges, feeling the same doubts, and wondering if they'll ever find their place in this crazy world of modern dating. Before I wrap up, I want to address one last thing: hope. It's easy to watch a video like this and feel like it's all doom and gloom. But it's not. Yes, modern dating is tough, and yes, it's taking a toll on men. But it's also a moment of opportunity. The struggles we're facing are forcing us to rethink what it means to be a man, to build relationships, to find meaning in a world that's changing fast. And that's not a bad thing. It's a chance to grow, to adapt, to become better, not just for the sake of dating, but for yourself. So where do we go from here? If you're a guy watching this, take a moment to reflect. What's your experience been like? What's been the hardest part of dating for you? And what's one thing you can do? Not to win at dating, but to feel better about yourself in the process? Maybe it's taking a break from the apps. Maybe it's joining a club or picking up a new hobby. Maybe it's just giving yourself permission to feel what you're feeling without judgment. Whatever it is, start small. You don't have to fix everything overnight. If you're not a guy, I hope this gave you some insight into what men are going through. Dating isn't a zero-sum game where one side's struggles cancel out the others. We're all in this together, trying to figure out how to connect in a world that doesn't always make it easy. Let's keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about what we can do to make things better for everyone. That's it for today. If you found this video helpful, hit that like